Good afternoon to you. Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for the 16th of May, 2016. Let's take a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies for today, updated on the 16th. So we are current. You notice this thin ribbon of blue showing up here in the equatorial Pacific. That would be the beginnings of this La Nina that we're going to hear more and more about. In the deep tropics here, things continue to be above normal overall, although this remains very curious. The cold water here in the northeast Atlantic, and then off the map up here, it's also very cold in the far reaches of the northern Atlantic. This is what things looked like at the beginning of the year. If you want to talk about comparing and contrasting, well, here you go. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly chart from January the 4th. Here we are today, and you can certainly see the Pacific really went from gangbuster El Nino through here, show it again, to bam, it's all gone. And now the cold water in the subsurface is starting to reach the surface. Now in the Atlantic, again going back to today's date just to make sure we're current, here off the Iberian Peninsula and in the northeast corner of the subtropical Atlantic, out of the tropical region anyway, yeah, it is pretty cold compared to where it should be. How this factors into the hurricane season, will it promote higher pressures, a stronger Bermuda-Azores high? The Azores Islands being here, so will there be a big strong high sitting up here dominating the Atlantic with very strong trade winds coming off Africa and driving dust storms and just mixing up the ocean because of that? Well, we'll just have to see. Some speculate that that will indeed be the case. Some of the long-range models, especially from the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasting, or what people call the Euro, are indicating higher pressures down through this region at the peak of the season in August, September, October. And I would have to believe that that is because of abnormally cold water in this region of the Atlantic and the higher pressure that that would promote. I guess it just makes sense. So we shall see, right? At least for now, this region through here remains anomalously warm. So going back to the El Nino and the La Nina state, this was updated on the 8th of May, so it we'll probably be getting a new update here soon in the next few days. And you can see all of this subsurface cold water lurking in the Pacific, just waiting to make it to the surface, and we will indeed be in the La Nina pattern probably sometime over the summer. Now, it's interesting, Phil Klotzbach from Colorado State University tweeted this annotated graphic from the European Center, the ECMWF folks. And so this is the May 1st run of 51 different simulations on their modeling showing the evolution of the Nino 3.4 area. And so basically that is the evolution of the, that's the wrong map, let's go to this one. Roughly this area, I believe, is a pretty good geographic representation. It's not taking into account the entire Pacific. It's basically this area through here, in the model and its ensemble members, 51 different members of the Euro run at the same time with different variables, and then you get this interesting sort of spaghetti plot, if you will, or time series plot of what the model output is. And you can see there's a pronounced dip. Let's draw in yellow here, make it easier to see. No argument about that, but then you can clearly see sort of this weird roller coaster ride. It tries to come back up according to many of the members, and then it bottoms out again towards winter. But some of the ensemble members coming back up towards Nino threshold again, it's just hard. I mean, some of these models are going to do better than others, but it's interesting, some of the members in here, each one of these represents an ensemble member. And if we go back and look at the March and April forecasts, less and less of these are showing up, and we're getting more and more down here for what it's worth. And so when you go back and you look at the reality, this is not a model, this is a snapshot. This is, you know, like a CAT scan of the ocean, if you will. It shows a slice of the Pacific. So this is not a projected output. This is what's happening for real. And that's a lot of cold water. The Southern Oscillation Index, which is a measure of the pressure fields in the Pacific, is trending towards more positive values, which indicates more of a La Nina pattern getting to set up. So I think that this will start to catch up more, and maybe the climate forecast system from the U.S. and other models, such as the Scripps Oceanographic Institute, I believe that's what they're called, their model is showing a pronounced La Nina Yeah, bottom line, we're headed to a La Nina. It's just a matter of when and how strong. And I just think in this case, the Euro might be overdoing this sort of roller coaster up and down motion. So we'll see, right? By the time we get to, let's say, middle August, I think we'll know. So there you go. At least we can verify it. All right, so water temperatures need to be around 26 degrees Celsius or close to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is the case here in the northern Gulf Coast and some of the shelf water area. Same here along parts of the shelf water of the Florida Peninsula. And then out in the open ocean here of the Gulf, water temperatures easily in that 26 degree range, which actually, I guess, let's zoom in on this. It's interesting, their color bar. Hey, look at that. Everything from that cyan color over is 26 degrees Celsius or higher. And so if we zoom back out, that would encompass pretty much the entire Gulf. So I will backpedal a little bit and say, hey, look, 95% plus of the Gulf is ready for tropical activity, sea surface temperature wise. But I'm going to show you something in a minute that'll kind of show you why things don't get going just because sea surface temperatures are ready. Off the east coast of the United States, warming up here along the Carolina coast, even near the Outer Banks here, maybe the northern Outer Banks not so much, but Hatteras, Ocracoke, and parts of the undeveloped areas of the southern and central Outer Banks, water temperatures in the low to mid 70s, and then lurking just offshore in the Gulf Stream, water temperatures in the low to mid 80s in some cases. Still low 80s. I won't go that far and call it mid 80s yet, but we are seeing, that right there is a 27 degree isotherm in the Gulf Stream, Celsius, by the way, 27 Celsius, which is 81 Fahrenheit. So there you go. So why don't we have hurricane activity right now, since a good deal of the Atlantic Basin, especially the Western Basin, is warm enough. So this is the outline of the United States right here. All right, there's Cuba, see, right there. This will be the Lesser Antilles and the northern coast of South America. So check it out. Pretty much westerly winds everywhere you look, going against anything that might develop. Very strong wind shear, basically. We can look at that on a different graphic. These products, by the way, from the University of Wisconsin, awesome. And so if you just watch, every single one of these is facing from west to east. And we're talking 60 knots of wind out of the west, 40 to 50. It's just not time for hurricanes. The upper level winds are too strong, so any deep tropical convection that has even the inkling of a thought to get going is going to be decapitated before that ever happens. All right, let's move away from the tropics and look at lower 48 weather. Just the sort of National Watch Warning Map doesn't show much going on, and indeed there's not much right now, but if you look at the radar, that tells a little bit of a different story. Nothing really to speak of in the west parts of the country. Intermittent showers here across the Rockies, but the bulk of the action is in the nation's midsection, and then this curious little weak surface low sitting down here off the Texas coast, bringing inclement weather and, unfortunately, flash flood emergency earlier this morning into the Corpus Christi area, and all of this unsettled weather is headed across the deep south into the southeast proper, and it's just going to be kind of a yucky week ahead. Luckily, the severe weather confined, I say luckily, it's all relative, it's confined to the nation's midsection. We don't have any giant areas of severe weather forecast, but it's right here in the heart of Tornado Alley, so do pay attention. This is day one with a little bit better favorable conditions in the enhanced area, so it's sort of an upgrade from slight, if you will, right here inside this enhanced area. So pay attention there in Oklahoma and parts of the Texas Panhandle. It is tornado season. Even though it hasn't been very active, it's still active enough. Day two, unfortunately, the threat shifts south for Texas, where you are waterlogged beyond belief in most areas, and then a general thunderstorm risk anywhere in the green from there on. And then finally by day three, things calm down a little bit, but this might get upgraded to more of a slight risk in this area as we get closer, and the same thing over here in the southeast. We'll just have to watch. Bottom line, it's still May and severe weather season, and the transition towards the tropical season doesn't mean that we won't have severe weather outbreaks. Luckily, there just haven't been numerous day after day of hundreds of tornadoes so far this year. We've had a few outbreaks here and there, and unfortunately some of them have been deadly, and you've seen that and heard about it on the news, but nothing, we're still below normal basically, and that's good news. You got to take it where you can find it. Alrighty, well that's it for the tropics for today. Not much going on in the eastern Pacific. not even worthy of showing the area off the Mexican coast well out in the open Pacific, because it's not going to develop, so why even talk about it, right? So things are nice and quiet overall. Nothing in the Atlantic, nothing in the Pacific to get worried about. So that's great news as we start the week. All right? Well, that's it from me for today. I'll be back again tomorrow. Again, I am Mark Sudduth. And by the way, since it is the start of the Pacific hurricane season, the East Pac, I will be doing these updates daily until further notice. Once things kind of calm down and we get the sort of newness of the season and then the Atlantic season starting, sometime over the next month I'll begin to do them less frequently when things don't warrant anything to talk about. Does that make sense? So these are not going to be 180 plus video blogs. There will be days when there's nothing to talk about, and I'll let you know when those are as they come. All right? Have a good rest of your Monday. Again, thanks for tuning in. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.